میں سے اس کے بعد مسیح پڑھتا ہوں. کوفے سے آئے پہنے جو سجاد لے لیا. کون آ گئے؟ یہ بدل رہے تھے کوئی؟ بدلنے کے کوئی کیا یہ چینج کیوں کریں کپڑا؟ شروع کروں.
پر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
یہ سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا. اسیر ہو کے جب شام میں گیا ہوگا. یہ سوچتا سنا ہے شام میں جاتے ہی خون رونے لگا. سنا ہے شام میں جاتے ہی خون رونے لگا. نہ جانے شمر نے اس وقت کیا کہا ہوگا. یہ سوچتا گلے کی طوق نے عابد کو کیا جھکانا تھا. گلے کی طوق نے عابد کو کیا جھکانا تھا. وہ اپنے کھوئے ہوئے لال ڈھونڈتا ہوگا. یہ سوچتا ہوں وہ ظلم دیکھے ہیں سجاد نے حسین کے بعد. وہ ظلم دیکھے ہیں سجاد نے حسین کے بعد. مجھے یقین ہے کہ اب تک بھی رو رہا ہوگا. یہ سوچتا ہوں
سلوات کوفے سے آئے پہن جو سجاد بیڑیاں لاش حسین دیکھ کے آنسو ہوئے رواں ہاتھوں کو جوڑ کر کیا بیمار نے بیاں بابا تمہاری لاش کو بابا تمہاری لاش کو بابا تمہاری لاش کو ڈھونڈوں کہاں کیسے کفن دوں لاش کو غربات نصیب ہوں بابا میں آج تم سے بابا میں آج تم سے بابا میں آج تم سے زیادہ غریب رو کر بنی اسد کے قبیلے کو دی صدا لاش حسین مل کے اکھٹا کرو ذرا اترے لحد میں شاہ کی بیمار کربلا بولے پڑھوں میں کس طرح بولے پڑھوں میں کس طرح بولے پڑھوں میں کس طرح تلقین یا رخ کیسے سوئے کعبہ ہو زہرا کہ چین کا سر ہی نہیں رہا میرے سر ہی نہیں رہا میں سر ہی نہیں رہا میرے بابا
حسین کا
جتنے بھی ٹکڑے مل سکے سب چن لیے گئے آہستہ سے لحد میں وہ بیمار نے رکھے سینے پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے جو بیٹے نے باپ کے حالت پہ بابا جان کی حالت پہ بابا جان حالت پہ بابا جان کی سجاد رو بولے کہ یاد آتی ہے اس وقت دادی جان ٹوٹی ہے اس طرح میرے ٹوٹی ہے اس طرح میرے ٹوٹی ہے اس طرح میرے بابا
کی پسلیاں
لوٹی ہے ایسی لاش غریب دیار کی گھوڑوں سے پہلے لاش کی پامال کی گئی پھر کرتا اور امامہ ابا لے گیا کوئی یہی نہیں کہ صرف یہی نہیں کہ صرف یہی نہیں کہ صرف انگوٹھی نہیں بیت رام کی ہے یوں زہرا کے چین کی انگلی لئی نے کاٹ لی انگلی لئی نے کاٹ انگلی لئی نے کاٹ لی بابا حسین تیروں سے سارا جسم ہے خون میں بھرا ہوا، پہلو پہ بابا جان کے ہے نیزہ گڑا ہوا، تیرا جگہوں سے ان کا گلا ہے کٹا ہوا، ہے تن یہاں تو سر وہاں، ہے تن یہاں تو سر وہاں، خون میں بھرا سر دیکھ کر یقین ہے میرے خاندان کو مارا ہے پتھروں سے، مارا ہے پتھروں سے، میرے بابا جان کو بڑھ کر بنی اسد نے ایک بات پوچھ لی، مولا معاف کیجئے گر ہو خطا کوئی، چھوٹی سی یہ کیا چیز ہے شے پر رکھی کوئی، عابد بات سن کے، عابد کی بات سن کے، عابد کی بات سن کے ہر ایک مان رو پڑی، بولے یہ دیکھ دیکھ کے دل پاش پاش ہے، سینے پہ بابا جان کے، سینے پہ بابا جان کے اصغر کی لاش ہے۔ صلوات
صلی علی محمد۔ محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ Now I would like to invite Sheikh on the member with loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
سورة المبارك الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، إلها واحدا أحدا فردا صمدا، لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم والقرآن المجيد وكتاب الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Dearest respected elders, respected brothers, respected sisters, Salamun alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. By the permission and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, we'll continue our discussion examining why it is that God created us. Yesterday we looked at chapter 23 of the Holy Quran, Surah Mu'minun, verse 115, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us if we were created in vain, aimlessly, no purpose. Will we not be brought back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And yesterday we looked at the fact that there were 3 reasons mentioned in the Holy Quran as to why God created us. One reason is to be tested. One reason is to worship Allah. And we said that that takes us to our ultimate goal, our ultimate purpose, which is to have the mercy of God showered upon us. And yesterday we focused on the first reason, which was receiving the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to examine and look at this concept of worshiping God. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear in chapter 51, verse 56, that the jinn and mankind were created to worship Allah. But when you look at our lives, and I say this to myself first, because we come from a school that prides itself on the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come from the school that has produced the adornment of the worshippers, Sayyidul Sajideen, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We come from the school of the Imam who was born in the Kaaba and who was martyred in a state of sajda. We come from the school of Ahlul Bayt who dedicated their lives to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet when it comes to us, worship is so heavy. It's so hard. I say this as a reminder to myself first, and not meant as any criticism, but as a way to understand where is this disconnect. God is saying, I created you for worship. Your purpose of existing is worship. But when it comes to offering worship, it's so heavy. They mention, one of my teachers had mentioned a story that there was a brother who was sitting and the time for adhan came. Adhan, time for adhan. He's a Shia, practicing Muslim, no problem. Said that when the adhan came, the brother said, "Oof, now it's time for salat." As if you had given him the worst possible news. Intention is not bad, but we have this feeling, we have this struggle. Why is that? People say, I have a hard time connecting with God. I have a hard time worshiping Allah. I do it. I know. I get it. If I don't do it, I'll go to hell. So I understand. But it's such a chore. It's such a burden. For some people, of course. We're not generalizing. Now, of course, that individual who prays out of the fear of going to hell, it's not a bad level by any means. But what did we say yesterday? Islam's purpose, we said everything has a purpose, right? Islam's purpose is to take that potential within you and extract it and make you better. So that's one level. But Islam's going to take you higher and higher and higher. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to look at worship. We're going to understand, firstly, what does it mean to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Secondly, what are the benefits of religion as a system? Number 3, why is it so hard for me to connect with God? Why is it so difficult for me to have a relationship with my Creator? And number 4, what are some practical solutions that we can take that will, inshallah, strengthen not only our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but our love to worship Allah. So inshallah, we will examine this with the loudest of salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If I were to ask you, what does it mean to worship God? Majority of you will say, namaz, salat. I say, what else? You'll say hajj. What else? Fasting, khums, zakat. That's all true. That's one level of worship. But if I bring an atheist, and the atheist offers the most beautiful salat, let's say that he is Arab speaking, for example, and he does everything correct. Pronunciation's correct, long sujood is correct, ruku is correct. Any value in that salat? Now, yes, somebody can come and argue and say, well, maybe that will soften their heart and bring them towards Islam. Yes, that's a separate point. But what is the main pillar of any act of ibadat? What is it? We all know it's niyat. It's your intention. See, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I've created you to worship me, it's beautiful. Allah does not say, I created you so that I may be worshipped. Wow. It's subtle. He says, no, I created you to worship me. Meaning what? Meaning that I want you to become a worshipper. What did we say yesterday? The worship is not needed. Allah does not need our worship. Allah's intention is to make you a worshipper of God, not necessarily to be worshipped. See the difference? Because to worship Allah, brings about that perfection. That atheist that offers that salat does not have any value. That salat that he's offering does not have any value. Because what gives something value? Niyat. I dedicate this act strictly, only, 100% for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. If there's 1 ounce of any other intention, Allah says, take it back. Because I don't need it in the first place. And whoever you're asking for or you want reward from, go to that person. I'm the only one independent. I'm the only one who can truly help you. It's beautiful. So, what is the purpose of worship? Worship is a vehicle that allows you to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Umar Asad, Al-La'in, never miss Salat al-Layl. It's a scary thought, my brothers. It's a scary, scary statement. If I pray Salat al-Layl once in my life, I feel like I'm an Ayatollah. One Salat al-Layl, it's a miracle. Umar Asad al-La'in never missed Salat al-Layl. You think the enemies of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they didn't read the Quran? They were offering the same salat. But it's not about salat itself. It's not about the action. Because if that salat was having an effect, then you wouldn't give salutations to the Holy Prophet and then in the next moment go and kill his grandson. Right? So is it about the worship itself? No. It's about the connection with Allah. Okay. So we're looking at the fact that we were created to have the mercy of God showered upon us. Okay. And that worship is that greatest act that we can perform. And it's that vehicle. Worship is very broad. It's something I dedicate for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that has that intention. Anything halal, of course. Let us now not say I go and I'm going to do something haram, qurbatan lillah. It doesn't work that way. But it's that vehicle. Okay. But why is it so difficult for us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? For some of us, I speak only about myself. Inshallah, no one here. But I'm saying just for myself. How can I strengthen my relationship? Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam used to love all acts of worship. They would spend their nights. Let me ask you a question. In Jannat, in heaven, is salat wajib or not? No, right? You have to offer salat in heaven? I know some of us are probably thinking, please, I hope not. That was not a part of the deal. Just joking. But the point is what? Do you have to offer salat in Jannat? No. Do you think that the Prophet and the Imams alayhimussalam will be offering salat in Jannat? Think about it for a second. The point is what? Again, I pray so that I don't go to hell. That's the lowest level, that's fine. I know if I don't pray, if I don't do the khums, if I don't do hajj, I'm going to go to hell. I don't want to go there. I heard it's a really bad place. It's hot. I don't like the heat. I don't want to burn. No hell for me, no thanks. So I'm just doing this so I don't go to hell. That's it. Again, it's not a bad level. I heard heaven is great. Everything I want's in heaven. So this is a ticket for me to go to heaven. Cool. I'll do it. The Ahlul Bayt alayhimussalam say it doesn't matter, as we mentioned yesterday. Heaven, hell would not change anything. You think if there was no heaven, no hell, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would pray less? You think Ahlul Bayt alayhimussalam would read less Quran? Worship is what else? It's just remembrance of Allah. There's a balance. Everything in Islam is about balance. Balance. Everything. You see, you go through situations in your life where you're very religious and very spiritual, and then you kind of go down. Some days you're up, you want to pray Salat al-Layl, you want to read Quran, a whole juz. And then some days just to wake up and do Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr is a struggle. It's because the way we approach it, my dear brothers and sisters, is not attractive to the heart, right? We don't necessarily understand this whole act of worship, and now it becomes boring, and now it becomes a chore. Okay, so how do we change this? There's one fundamental piece here, fundamental piece. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is knowledge. Knowledge is arguably the greatest ingredient. How do you expect to worship and love someone who you don't know? How? I come to you, I tell you, I have a best friend. We are close. I will do everything for him. He is the light of my eyes. So, wow, he must have done a lot for you. You must have a lot of experiences together. Say, no. Actually, I've never talked to him. I've never met him. I saw him one time. But he is like my best friend. And I'm really close with him. So then he comes and he asks something of you. Hey, can you do me a favor? I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Never mind. It wasn't that serious. I don't really know you that much. Think about the people in your life that you're closest to. If I come and I ask you for something, inshallah, of course, lovers of Ahlul Bayt, you'll do it. But if someone who you know has done something for you, someone who really you're close to, cares about you, someone you know, you'll give everything, the shirt off your back for them. Greatest example is our parents, especially our mothers. Why do they say, for example, those insults that a person can give? What are those worst insults? They always say, oh, your mother. It's the biggest insult is to insult somebody's parents, right? Why? Because your mother, your father is your heart. You know everything. You know some of what your parents have done for you. There's a lot we don't know. The point is what? I have a relationship with my parents. I know my parents. What do I have the best relationship with? My cell phone. My cell phone and I are the closest. I have a great relationship with my cell phone. We've mentioned this in the past, right? Because I know my cell phone very well. We spend a lot of time together. It helps me through a lot of situations. But what about the one who created me? What about the one who created me to have mercy on me? My dear brothers and sisters, number one, the biggest impediment when it comes to our worship and wanting to worship and wanting to extend our worship is that we don't know Allah. We're asked to worship this being that we don't know. Now someone will come and say, okay, so are you saying that I don't have to do any ibadat until I know Allah? No. It doesn't work that way. The more you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly, the more you make the effort, Allah comes to you. that knowledge of Allah will increase, that relationship will increase. But we have to do our part to know Him. That is how you will reach perfection. Is it easy? No, of course not. You think shaitan wants you to have a good relationship with Allah? No way. You ever noticed the second you make a decision, you say, you know what, tomorrow, like Ramadan for example, I'm going to start reading Quran. You ever notice the moment you make that niyat to start reading Quran and you go to pick it up, something happens. It's like, wait a second, I forgot about this, I don't want to do this. Shaitan's not going to make it easy for you. It's amazing. I can sit, for example, I'll watch a football game or something for hours. I won't blink. So don't move. But when it comes to salat, again, for an example, because salat is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's one of the most precious, if not the most precious gift from Allah. But 5-minute salat is like, 5-minute salat's like a big deal, right? We want to extend. One of the practical advices I'll give you, brothers and sisters, very quickly before we continue on. When it comes to salat specifically, if you're having a difficulty connecting, pray salat in an area where you're not distracted by anything. Have an area in your house, a room. If you can offer salat al-jama'ah, that's the best, of course. But in situations where you're not able to, be alone by yourself and take your time. Offer one, let's say one a day, offer a salat slowly. And say, I'm just talking to my Creator. It's just me and Allah. That's it. Slow down your salat, my dear brothers and sisters. Just that one act, you will feel a different connection. You'll feel a different connection. So when it comes to worship, we said it's that vehicle to reach Allah and to gain the mercy of Allah. That comes through nearness to Allah. The more I know Allah, the more I fall in love with Allah, the more I gain nearness to Allah, the more sweet my life becomes. Why? Because I was created for Allah. For Allah in what sense? That Allah benefits? No. That I benefit. When we say that your goal is Allah, it means proximity and nearness to Allah. That God becomes your world. That every decision that you make, every thought that you have revolves around God. That's what taqwa is. You hear all the time, have taqwa, do taqwa, piety. So what is this taqwa all the time? I always have to have taqwa? Really? I go to the mall, I have to think about Allah there? Especially there, yeah. I'm watching TV, I have to think about God. Can't I just relax? No. Always have God at the front of your mind. What does it mean? Does it mean, for example, be a monk, go in the mountains and just praise God all day? Again, that's not what Allah wants. What Allah wants is for our own benefit, not for the benefit of Allah. We have to change that understanding of worship. So that's number one, my dear brothers and sisters. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So someone will say, okay, that's fine. I get it. I can remember God. But why do I need religion to do it? I wake up, I say, God, thank you. I keep going. Why do I have to do it the way the religion says? Why do I have to worship God through this prayer or through Hajj or through reading Quran or wudu? Remember, all of these are acts of ibadah. Wudu is an act of ibadah. Anything that has a niyat and intention is an act of worship. When you go to work, before you go to work, make an intention. Before you go to school, I'm going to school, I'm going to work. Qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. That becomes ibadat. When you go to work out in the gym, of course in a halal situation, where you're in a halal area, it's very difficult to go to a gym nowadays where you're not in that situation, but nonetheless, you're working out, you say, I'm working out, qurbatan ila Allah. I say, really? How is lifting weights, how is benching worship of God? Because you're dedicating it, you're saying, oh Allah, allow me to gain this strength, which only you provide. Only you give this strength to me, Ya Allah, so that I may in turn have the physical and mental and spiritual strength to come back to you and worship you, O Allah. You see, everything can be made to be a worship of Allah. Everything. When you serve your parents, when you take care of your children, when you have patience in both situations, you say, I'm having patience for the pleasure of Allah. Everything is about Allah's pleasure. In society, that's very tough. So someone will come and say, well, why do I need religion to do it? Reason number one. There's two angles here. One is from the angle of an atheist. An atheist says, why do I need religion? Okay. If I were to tell you that there's an individual, you ask an American, right? You have an American. You say, okay, Mr. American, you have two neighbors here. One neighbor he's a great guy. He always goes, helps you, is a very nice person, always greets you in the morning, cuts your grass and stuff. But every day he comes, he takes the American flag and he steps on it. Okay, this is neighbor number one. Bear with me here for a second. Second neighbor is also a very good guy, nice guy, helps you, but he is a little busy. Maybe sometimes, he's not as helpful, has a little shortcomings every once in a while. But every day he comes out and he salutes the American flag. And he says, thank you. You ask your American friend, who do you respect more out of these two people? Say, well, I respect the person who salutes the flag. Why? Why? Because this person has acknowledged and respected what the American system has done. Now, we can talk, of course, about the government, the policies. That's a different thing. We're saying, generally speaking, that any country has given you some certain freedoms that you show appreciation to. But if I go every day and I say that this country's done nothing for me, and I'm against this and I'm against that, this person will say, what kind of person is this? And this goes to any country. Again, we're not talking about the government. It's just a general example, right? To show appreciation. Somebody who says, I don't need religion, is saying, I don't need to show any gratefulness towards my Creator. I don't need to show any gratitude. Religion is amazing. Why? Because it shows you how to be grateful to your Creator. Any decent human being is someone who shows thankfulness towards someone else. If I come to you every day and I say, my mother's done nothing for me, I have no reason to take care of my mother or have any duties against my mother, you'll say, what kind of person are you? I'm a good guy. I'm a good person. Again, we're not talking about judging, right? But the point here is to have gratitude. So the point is what? Religion allows you to have gratitude. Now, what did we say yesterday? Did I create myself? No. Did someone else create me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes. Okay. So does Allah know what's best for me? Yes. Now, why is that important? Because when I say, for example, I'm spiritual, I don't need religion, I know what God wants from me. We said yesterday, how do you know what God wants from you? What they're really doing in a way, unintentionally, is like a type of self-idolatry. Why are they doing this? And we're going to get to this point in a second. Because religion, they'll say, is hard. Religion's very difficult. Everything nowadays, right, is becoming like coffee. Everything's preferences. I go to Starbucks, you go to Dunkin', so I want this latte with no milk, but I want almond milk, but extra whipped cream, but no chocolate, this, that, right? A lot of preferences, right? We are now doing that with our religion. Matam I'll do, but no namaz. Quran, I'm good. I'll put fasting away. I like this sadaqah thing, but I don't know about khums. Right? We're picking and choosing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Habibi, this is not what's good for you though. If you understood me and if you had a relationship with me, you would understand why I sent this system for you. When we understand the system of Allah, it sweetens our relationship with Allah. So the point is what, when it comes to religion and gratitude, is that religion shows you how to be grateful. No decent person would respect someone who doesn't respect the laws of a land or the rights of an individual upon them. There's a lot of other benefits, but for the sake of time, one other very important part of religion that I want to mention here has to do with morality. And this is a big one. How do I know what's moral? You ask someone. So, okay, you don't need religion, no problem. How do you know what's good and bad? Well, I think that this is good. I think this is bad. I remember there was a friend of my father's. He's religious, but he doesn't believe in religion in the sense that he believes in God, and he says there's no religion. I said, okay, so what are your beliefs? He said, well, God is all love. So because God is all love, God would not punish you or put you in hell. So I'm thinking, I said, okay, but where are you getting this from? Did someone tell you this? A representative of God, or you just are? No, this is how I feel. Because I think that punishment is bad. Okay. You see, if I look at the individual self, right, and I'm trying to understand what's good or bad, you look at me, you look at anyone who has children, you ask them, a parent, have you seen love more than a mother and a father towards a child? When a mother or a father, for example, puts their child in timeout, you're going to tell me that the mother or the father doesn't love the child just because they're putting them in timeout? Punishment, if understood correctly, is not because Allah doesn't love you. Rather, because Allah loves you, there's punishments. It's a very beautiful system. Why am I putting my child in timeout? Because they did something which was detrimental to them, and because I care about them, I want them to make sure they don't do that again. Because I love them, I'm trying to show them a way that they will not do it again. The point is what? If I just depend on society, morality goes up and down, up and down. Certain acts, which we don't need to mention on the member, but we all know what I'm talking about. 50 years, 100 years ago, in this society was considered appalling. But now, some 50 years later, 100 years later, it's considered to be okay. So now what do? I'm confused. So were those people wrong 100 years ago? Or are these people wrong? Or who's wrong, who's right? I don't know. Religion, because it comes from God, is fixed. It doesn't change. Morality. Now we can talk about, okay, the change in laws and fiqh. That's a separate, a much deeper, separate conversation. We're talking about morality. And ultimately, of course, God's laws don't change. But that's a different conversation for another day, inshallah. But the morality is the same. Generosity is good. It will always be good. Oppression is bad. It will always be bad. Taking care of parents will always be good. If I give you $1 and you go and you have this $1 and you go and you buy a loaf of bread. Okay, I mean, now with inflation you can't really buy bread for $1, but nonetheless, now the next day you come to the same store and the shopkeeper tells you this bread is $10,000. The dollar will lose its value. Why? Because it's not stable. You can't trust it, right? $1, now 10,000, now $5. What is the value of this dollar now? I don't know. Religion says stability. I'm not confused now. If I depend on society to tell me what's right or wrong, I'm going to be lost. That's why, my dear brothers and sisters, especially when we look at our children, in this society, they're so confused. I can't blame them. Because they're being told what one person comes now, you go on social media, everybody's an influencer. Allahu Akbar. Social influencer. I'm influenced by this person. Okay. But do you, when you're influencing me, do you know why I was created? Are you going to help me and achieve my goal for why God created me? Or are you trying to produce a video so that you get more views, but you don't maybe necessarily understand the moral impact that you're having on me? That's why we said yesterday, if we don't understand our purpose, it's like driving that car into the ocean. Social media has a lot of benefits, by the way. But we have to understand how to protect ourselves because it can be detrimental. So, and there's a lot more. Inshallah, it's a much greater conversation. But very briefly, two main benefits. There's a lot of others, but these are the two main ones. Number one, it allows you to show gratitude. Number two, it provides stability when it comes to a moral code. So, what did we say that worship generally is? It's the it's a continuous remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very simple. When you do an act, any act, just say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you do it. Just have a reminder of Allah before you do any act. You're not going to want to go and start talking bad about certain people. I'm going to go do ghibat, qurbatan ilallahi ta'ala. Nope. You're going to laugh. You're going to say, well, no, wait, what am I talking about? I'm going to go on this website and look at this thing, qurbatan. We'll say, whoa, no. Have that reminder That's the beauty of taqwa. You're not alone. But let us explain this one in detail. Okay, someone will say, brother, I get it. I understand. That's fine. But it's not that easy. It's not that as simple as you're making it seem. Have you lived in this society? Do you see how hard it is? I try to connect with God. Why is it generally difficult for us to have a connection with God? Number one, the most important reason that we talked about, we don't have a relationship with Him. We don't know Him. That's number one. We don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm speaking only as a reminder to myself. That's number one. Number two, we feel that His standards for us is too difficult. It's too much. You're telling me 30 days in the year I have to fast? This is no way, man. Crazy. I have to wake up. I would love to do my salat when I come home from work. I'll do it then, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, I'll do it. But not in the morning, not during the day. It's too much. I have to go to the store. I have to look at the ingredients I can have, I cannot have. I can't go to the beach. I love the beach, right? Can't do anything fun. Islam and Allah just wants my life to be miserable, miserable, miserable. Rules, 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 rules. So how am I supposed to connect to a creator that just has such high standards for me all the time? And the third reason, so number one, we said it's difficult for us to connect with Allah. Why? Number one, because we're unable to connect with God, because we don't know Him. Number two, we think His standards for us are too much. And number three, His system, the system of Allah, we don't understand. So because when something happens in our system, in the system of God, we become angry, astaghfirullah Rabbi, with Allah. And because of this, we don't want to connect with Him. Okay. Now let us look at some practical solutions to fix this. Worship, my dear brothers and sisters, will be a beautiful way of connecting and increasing our knowledge of God. Even if you don't think it's having an impact, I promise you it's having an impact. There was a story that one of our scholars had mentioned, said that there was a grandson and a grandfather, and the grandfather, he didn't understand Arabic. He didn't read Arabic, but he would always listen to the Quran. He would just listen to it. Either he would listen to it or he'd read it, but he didn't understand it. So his grandson would come to him and say, "Grandfather, why do you listen to this, but you don't understand it? You don't know what they're saying." He says, "Okay, I want you to do me a favor. Take this basket," there's a basket I have, "and go to the river and bring me some water." Now this basket had holes in it. Okay, it was a basket at the bottom, it had holes. The grandson goes, poor guy, he runs to the river, fills it up full of water, runs back to his grandfather. What happens when he gets there? All the water fell out. It's okay. Can you go try again? Second day. The grandson goes, runs out to the river, tries to fill it up, fills it up with water, runs fast back. All the water's gone again. Oh, it's the holes, right? He doesn't give up. Third day he goes, runs to the river, fills it up, comes back, empty again. Grandfather stops him. He says, "Now what you may not have noticed is 3 days ago in this basket, there was dirt. There were some little pebbles, some rocks. But now look at the basket. That dirt is gone. Those rocks are gone. The water may not be filled, but the basket is cleaner than it was 3 days ago. I may not have the fullest understanding of this holy book of the Quran, but when I listen to it, the effect that it has on my heart is like the purifying of that dirt from the basket." Allahumma. Now, of course, to gain the biggest benefit, someone will say, "Why didn't you just fix the basket," right? Yeah, of course. The biggest benefit is what? Is to learn the Arabic language when we're talking about the Quran. And to inshallah study. But what will happen is someone will say, "Okay, well, until I learn Arabic, I'm not going to read the Quran. Until I learn Arabic, I'm not going to listen to the Quran because I don't know what I'm saying." I'm telling you, my dear brothers, sitting on this member, I've seen situations. Someone will come to the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they'll sit. They may not understand the language. I've seen people who have come to the majalis and they've had things happen against them. But because they've sat in that majlis, in the majalis of Abi Abdullah alayhi salam, their heart has become softened. Don't ever underestimate. Just coming here is a big deal. It's a big deal. Don't ever underestimate. Just sitting here has an impact. You know, I won't mention the center. I know this is a problem a lot of centers have. They'll say, you know, kids will come, even adults in some situations. They'll come, but they won't come inside the hall. They'll sit outside. Why don't they just come inside? Habibi, it's good. At least they're here. They may not be inside the hall, but at least they're in the center. At least they're close. There are some people that they won't even come. We pray for them. The point that I'm making is what? Is number one, is all of these acts that even though you may not understand it initially, you will have this love of Allah that will start. It will start. But then you have to take it to the next level. If you notice, for example, you're praying and you're not noticing any change, is there a positive effect of salat? Of course. But now you have to say, okay, now it's been like 3 weeks and I'm still doing the same stuff. I'm rude, for example, to people. I'm having a hard time giving charity. I look at things I'm not supposed to look at. I'm having relationships I'm not supposed to have. And I'm doing it. Now we have to examine the salat itself, for example, or the hajj, or the ziyarah. Because this majalis of Imam al-Hussein al-Islam or any of the ibadat, we are supposed to be different than when we come here. It is supposed to change us. It's the mi'raj of the mu'min, salat, mi'raj of the mu'min, according to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. So, number one is to have knowledge of Allah. Let me ask you, there are 99 attributes. There are many more. As we know in Dua Joshan, for example, 100 names. But we say there are 99 attributes of God. Very quickly, I want to just mention 6 of them. Okay? Before that, if you know somebody who's really rich or really powerful, we respect that person, right? Everyone wants to be their friend, be close to them. Tell their friends that, hey, I'm close to this person who's rich, who's powerful. Why? Because they're rich. We as a society, we respect the wealthy. We respect the powerful, right? But what about the Lord of the universe? What about the one who is the most wealthy? What about the one who's the most powerful? We respect people of knowledge, right? People who have knowledge, we respect them. What about the creator of knowledge? What about the one who has knowledge of everything? What about the one who is knowledge himself? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the attributes is that he is knowledge. This is another discussion, but when you study Tawheed, you'll learn that you cannot say, for example, Allah is knowledgeable, because that's an attribute and it separates from the essence of God. It's a bigger discussion. The point is what? God is knowledge. Now, what that knowledge is, I don't know. I cannot comprehend it. But why, if I give importance to people who are wealthy and all of this, when I have my Creator who is the most wealthy? Let us look at some of the names. We want to get to know Allah. Let us look. Number 1, Ya Wadud. What does Ya Wadud mean? Al-Wadud, afwan. The one who loves. The loving one. How can we have a weak relationship with the one who's loving? You ever see people in your society, they're always smiling, they're always kind to you? Do you know anyone who hates these people? No. Now, your Creator, who does not need us, who does not benefit from us, who's only showering favors upon us, is the one who is all loving. How can I not go into sujood and thank that Creator? How can I not go and praise that Creator? How can I not want to be closer to the one who's loving? This society, my dear brothers and sisters, we work so hard to gain the affection of people and the praise of people. I've seen it with my own eyes. There are people, they will praise you your whole life. They will respect you your whole life. You do one thing against them, they've turned their back on you. I've seen it. Time and time and time and time again, I forget Allah, but Allah never forgets me. Allah never forgets me. I may question Allah, astaghfirullah Rabbi. I may miss a prayer, I may do a haram. Allah doesn't stop giving me food. Allah doesn't stop giving me a place to stay. Allah doesn't turn away from me. Why do I turn away from Allah? Ya Wadud. Always remember this attribute, Al-Wadud. Al-Hakim. This is very important, my dear brothers. Wisdom, the wise one. Everything Allah does has wisdom behind it. Do we not respect those individuals who are wise? Fortunately, we're in a society now where certain people who are extremely ignorant are being praised in society. I don't need to elaborate on who we're talking about, but what about that individual who has wisdom? Wisdom is something we respect. So this is the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wise one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Ghafoor, forgiving. His door of mercy is always open. No matter what, Allah's there waiting for us to come back to Him. Allah just wants to love you and shower His mercy on you. Allah does not want to make life difficult on you. So number one, my dear brothers and sisters, learn about Allah. Gain knowledge about Allah. Study Tawheed. Learn about the attributes of Allah. Learn about the essence of Allah. Learn about Allah from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. You want to learn about Allah? The best way to learn about Allah is about looking at the lives of the Imam, of the Prophet and the Imams alayhimus salam. That's the greatest way of learning about Allah. When you come towards Ahlul Bayt, you're coming towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately. Quran, Ahlul Bayt, that is one of the best ways to learn. Seek knowledge from the right places, number one. Okay. Number two, change your perception about God. This is very important. What do I mean? God just wants to make my life difficult. God just wants to be hard on me. God has so many rules. God has so many expectations. And I'm constantly judging God. There are people who say God doesn't even exist. People questioning, why did God do this to me? But your whole life, God was doing nothing, has been doing nothing but showering mercy, showering mercy, showering mercy. Something happens and said, God, why did you do this to me? God is always there for us. Change your perception of Allah. What do I mean? There was a story of a lady. She was at an airport. She went and bought some cookies from the airport. She goes and sits in the gate, right? She's waiting for her flight. She goes into her purse. She puts the cookies there, goes into her purse, and pulls out her book, starts reading, sitting there in the terminal. She puts her book to the side and pulls out the cookies. There's a guy who's sitting next to her, and this guy starts eating from her cookie bag. Doesn't know her, complete stranger, doesn't even ask or say anything. This poor lady is sitting here eating her cookies. This guy comes right next to her and just starts eating it. She's like, doesn't say anything. She's furious. She's looking at the guy. What kind of guy is this? How rude. What impolite. Doesn't even say anything. And the guy is sitting there. He's just smiling. Biggest smile on his face. He's just eating the cookies. She takes one. He takes one. She's like, what is wrong with this person? Unbelievable. Now the bag is almost done. So one cookie left or so. He takes the last cookie. He splits it in half. Smile on his face, gives it to her. She's like, what? But she's so irritated, she doesn't say anything though. She's so upset. Cannot believe this. What kind of person does that? Can you imagine you're sitting next to a guy, complete stranger, who starts eating your food? Doesn't even ask you, doesn't even say thank you, does nothing. She says, okay. She gets on the flight. She puts her book away into her purse. She opens her purse. What does she find? An unopened bag of cookies. What did she do? She was actually eating from his cookie bag. She had made a mistake, and she was actually eating his cookies. And he did not say anything to her. In reality, it was his. She was taking from him. He smiled and had patience and gave. My dear brothers and sisters, we do this with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day. You think you're judged by society? Look at how God is judged. Look at how God is viewed. we take and take and take and take from Allah every day. And what does Allah do? Figuratively, of course, astaghfirullah Rabbi, not literally, smiling figuratively, I'm saying symbolically, in the sense that showers mercy and gives. Like that man. If someone did that to me, I'd say, hey, excuse me, lady, I'm sorry, but this is not your cookies. No. Now, of course, school of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, so you can have the whole bag, no problem. The point is what? You don't judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is treated like this by society every day. Change your perception of Allah. View God favorably. If you have a positive perception of God, your life will change, my dear brothers and sisters. View God favorably. Fall in love. Drown in the love of God. Get to know Allah. That's number 2. Okay. What about this fact that Islam is a very difficult system? I'm saying on the surface what people say. Islam expects too much. Too much. Every salat they have to do wudu. Now the wudu has so many conditions. The water has to be like this. It cannot be in a container of gold or silver. I can't do it myself. I have to do it myself. It has to be in this order. I cannot have anything blocking my hair, fingernails clear, all this. Now I come to salat. Salat has so many rules. I have to be in a certain position, facing a city that's thousands of miles away, wearing certain types of clothes on a certain type of place. I can't just do what I want. It's too much. There's 2 types of having high standards, right? When you say God has high standards, for me, there's 2 types. They say, for example, if you look at an individual who's like a monarch or a king, he has very high standards, but it benefits only himself. So one example of having high standards is so that it benefits me only and no one else. So I expect a lot from you because you're serving me. It's not doing any benefit to you. We put it aside. But the other type of having high standards is what? Is that the reason why I have high expectations from you is because I'm trying to benefit you. Does anyone say, for example, that Harvard and Yale and these top universities that are very difficult to get into, they should be abolished? We should get rid of them. Why? Because it's hard. They expect a lot of their students. They go through a lot. If you've seen military schools are very difficult. They wake up very early. They have discipline. Does anyone say we should get rid of military schools? I remember very briefly, for the sake of time, when I was in 11th grade back in high school. So you know what happens is you're in 10th grade, you're getting ready to go the next grade. I was going to take a chemistry class, and there was 2 or 3 chemistry teachers. One teacher, everybody was afraid of. They said, God, I just don't want to get this teacher. Any other teacher's fine, but there's one chem teacher I don't want to get. Everyone felt that way. She was so difficult, so much homework, so hard. They all begged, we don't want to get her. Summer comes, first day of school comes. I'm like, oh man, okay. Oh my God, I really hope it's not her. I get my course schedule. What's the first thing I look at? Chemistry. Yep. Allahu Akbar. I got that teacher. I was like, oh my God. Let me just give you an example. It's like that teacher that gives you homework on the first day. So what is this, man? First day they give homework? That was nothing. If you guys have fire drills, especially to my youth, when you have a fire drill, it's a fire drill, man. You're going to just go outside and then come back in. She was so intense that even as we were doing the fire drill and standing in line, she would continue to teach us chemistry while we're standing outside during a fire drill. That's how hardcore she was. That class was so difficult, my brothers and sisters. I'm telling you, oh my God, so much homework. But you know what? I would not trade anything in the world. That was the best class I ever had. I'm telling you honestly, sitting on this member. She was the best teacher I ever had. After that, as a result, I decided to major in chemistry because of how good of a teacher she was. I didn't quite make it when I got into college, but that's another discussion. The point is, her difficulty, right? The class being difficult was because she knew the potential that we had within us. She was not benefiting. She was not this evil person, I'm going to give you all this homework and that because I want to make your life miserable. No. She wanted to show us what we were capable of. And because she cared about us, she had high standards for us. and I'm a better person because of it. My dear brothers and sisters, Islam does expect a lot of you. Yes, it does. But it's a compliment to you because it shows you what Allah thinks of you. This is very important. Look at how Allah, what am I? I'm a creation. What the Creator thinks of me, how do I view myself? How do I view myself? So have a positive perception of God. Last one, and then we'll go to Masa'ib. Number one, we said that we have to get to know Allah to change our perception, to establish a stronger connection. And we have to change our perception, view God favorably. And when it comes to difficulties and high standards, it's actually for our own benefit. It's a good thing. Okay, number 4 is the hard one. This is the very difficult one. We have to avoid distractions, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the tough one. And I'm sitting here honestly telling you, I'm working on myself, inshallah. Sins make it very difficult to establish strong relationship with God. Because I'm constantly picking other than Allah, we talked about yesterday. So number 1, work hard on eliminating sins. Someone says, brother, that's not possible. It is possible. It may not be easy, but you can do it. You can do it. If you're struggling with a sin right now, you can eliminate, no matter how hard it may seem, and I tell you the truth, there may be a sin you're struggling with that seems impossible to get rid of. Nobody knows. Only you and Allah. But I promise you, if you dedicate and you ask Allah for help, you can get through it. But we cannot expect to continue our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we have heavy sins holding us back. That's number 1. Number 2 are these worldly distractions. And it's so easy to fall into it. You can be on your phone. I'm scrolling. Now even YouTube, they took TikTok and they put it on YouTube now. So now I don't even have TikTok and I'm wasting my time looking at videos on TikTok, scrolling. I look, 45 minutes have passed by. I said, my God, what did I just gain? What just happened? Where did my life go? It's not about the fact that Allah doesn't want you to have fun, but there's that fun that takes you towards Him. I just wasted my time. Did I think about Allah during this at all? No. How am I then going to be inclined to worship Allah, think about Allah when I'm looking at all of this distractions and junk? It's a process. It takes time. Nobody's saying tomorrow, now all of a sudden, we're going to be, perfect. But you have to take the first step. The first step is what? Make Allah your priority in your life. Change that simple mindset, my dear brothers and sisters. From tonight, everything that you do, put Allah first. That's it. Just put Allah first. Before everything else, your life will change. Then slowly you'll start to enjoy worship. You'll start to enjoy serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll drown in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you want to know what the proof of that is? What's the proof? What is the greatest proof that God exists? You ever thought about this? What's the greatest proof that God exists? The Holy Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They are the greatest proofs that there's a creator. How? An individual gets struck by a sword on his head, and the first thing he says, alayhi salam, is what? By the Lord of the Kaaba, I have won. If worshipping God creates an individual like Ali, then how magnificent God must be. You have someone like Sayyidah Zainab salam alayha who says, I saw nothing but beauty. Your whole family was slaughtered in front of you. You saw nothing but beauty. Why? Because the actions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam were strictly and solely for what? For the pleasure and nearness of Allah. That's beautiful. That's beauty. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam connect you. You fall in love with God when you fall in love with the Ahlul Bayt. Nobody suffered on this earth like the Imams, like the Prophet and the Imams. Nobody. But nobody was closer to God than the Prophet and the Imams. And that is why, my dear brothers and sisters, on a night like this, on the night of the 20th of Safar, I want to take you now to the land of Karbala. And I want you to clear your hearts tonight, this night, my dear brothers and sisters. If there's anyone who has wronged you, anyone you're upset at, or even if you have wronged anyone, for the love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam tonight, clear your heart, forgive that person, make dua for that person, and go and ask forgiveness to that person if you've hurt them. Not for yourself, but for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. My dear brothers and sisters, always serve Abi Abdullah. Always remember Imam al-Hussein. Always cry for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Dedicate your life to serving Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. I'm going to, inshallah, recite this musibat and the masaib slowly, because the lovers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam cannot take the narrations of these events. But it has been narrated like on a night like tonight, that we are going to now go towards the land of Karbala. It has been mentioned that Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, along with his companion Atiya, goes towards the land of Karbala, because Jabir had heard that his master Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had been slaughtered on the lands of Karbala. Jabir, who was blind at the time, approaches the land of Karbala. According to some narrations, Ati'a tells Jabir that there was a grave here. On this grave it has been written that here lies the one who died thirsty. The one who died thirsty. It was the writing of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam that this was the grave of his father Imam al-Hussein. In another narration, it's as if the poets mention that Jabir, who was blind, how was he able to tell where the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was buried? Because the scent and the smell of the Imam was so beautiful. The Jabir says that this is where my Imam lies. It has then been mentioned that a group of individuals and a caravan comes back from Sham towards Karbala. Ati'a tells Jabir, "O Jabir, I see that there are a group of people coming towards us." Jabir says, "Let us see if this is the army of Ibn Ziyad, or let us see if who else it may be." As they come closer, Ati'a tells Jabir, "It is Imam as-Sajjad, it's Imam Zain al-Abidin." Now the ladies are returning back to Karbala. How difficult, my dear brothers and sisters. It's as if the poets have mentioned that Rabab is saying, "O sand and land of Karbala, do not burn the neck or the body of my baby." It's as if the poets mention, "Oh, Ramla is saying, O land of Karbala, help me collect the pieces of my son Qasim." It is as if Layla says, "O land of Karbala, have mercy on my son Ali al-Akbar." Narrations mention that Imam Zain al-Abidin approaches now towards Jabir. Imam embraces Jabir and says, "O Jabir," Imam says, "This is the land where our men have been killed, and this is the land where our children were slaughtered, and this is the land where our women were taken as captives." Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam falls onto the grave of his father Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ya Hussein, it is mentioned that Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam has the head of Imam al-Hussein. Imam opens up the grave of the Imam. Imam al-Sajjad goes into the qabr of Abi Abdullah. Imam takes the head of Imam al-Hussein and places it with the body of Abi Abdullah. What sabr Imam Zain al-Abidin has. How madloom is your Imam. It is narrated or mentioned that it was as if from this time a voice comes from the body of Imam al-Hussein and says, "Oh Imam Sajjad, bring the body of Ali al-Asghar. Place the baby onto my chest. Place the baby onto my chest." Imam Sajjad, which only the Imam can do, after placing the head of Imam al-Hussein back into the qabr, Imam Zain al-Abidin comes back out of the grave. She then looks around. Imam Sajjad then looks around and says, "Where is my auntie Zainab? Where is my auntie Ya Zainab?" Imam Zain al-Abidin looks around and does not see. Then he looks towards the Furat and sees Sayyida Zainab at the Furat. Where is Sayyida Zainab? She went to go see her brother Abbas. Sayyida Zainab lies by the body of Abbas, by the grave of Abbas. Oh my dear brothers and sisters, what was the situation or the condition of Abbas when he was buried on the 13th of Muharram? Now Sayyida Zainab returns to the grave of Abu Fadil. The poets mentioned, it's as if they mention that Sayyida Zainab comes to the grave of Abbas and says, "Oh my brother Abbas, if we knew that asking you to go and bring the water would mean that you would not have returned back to us, we would not have asked for the water. Oh my brother Abbas, they imprisoned your sister and they whipped your sister and they beat your sister and they put your sister in chains and they paraded your sister from Karbala to Kufa to Sham." Sayyida Zainab salam alayha then leaves the grave of Abu Fadil. Sayyida Zainab approaches the grave of her brother Hussein. Sayyida Zainab comes closer to the grave of Abi Abdullah. Sayyida Zainab falls onto the grave of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It's as if the poets paint the picture. Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh Aba Abdullah, when you left the tents, when you went and bid your farewell, you entrusted all of the women, all of the children, all of the family, you entrusted them to me. And I tried my best, oh my brother Hussein, to protect them, to bring them back here to Karbala. But there was one amanat of yours, oh Aba Abdullah. There was one amanat of yours I was not able to bring back. Your little daughter Sakina Ruqayya, I had to leave her in Sham. I could not bring her back to you, oh Aba Abdullah." Ya Hussein, Matame Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 یا حسین 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 قیدی چلے جو چھوٹ کے زندان شام سے تب بیوں نے عرض کی رو کر امام سے لے چل یہ ہم کو کربو بلا اس مقام سے ملوائیے دوبارہ شہ تش ناکام سے القصہ پہنچا کربو بلا میں یہ قافلہ زینب نے گر کے لاشائے شبیر پر کہا اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع کھول دی ہے ظالموں نے میرے ہاتھوں سے رسن کھول دی ہے ظالموں نے میرے ہاتھوں سے رسن بے کفن تم ہو تمہیں دفنانے آئی ہے بہن بے کفن تم ہو تمہیں دفنانے آئی ہے بہن اے میرے مظلوم بھائی ابن حیدر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع آؤ اے آنو محمد میں لگاؤں گی گلے اے آنو محمد میں لگاؤں گی گلے تم نے جان دی تم نے سروارے ہیں بھائی پر میرے تم پہ صدقے تم پہ واری ہو یہ مادر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع پھر مخاطب لاشائے شبیر سے ہو کر کہا پھر مخاطب لاشائے شبیر سے ہو کر کہا ہو گئی بھیا سکینہ ہم سے زندہ میں جدا مر گئی وہ قید میں تم سے بچھڑ کر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع ہم نے ایک پل بھی تمہارے بعد نہ پایا سکون ہم ایک پل بھی تمہارے بعد نہ پایا سکون شام کوفہ اور زندہ کے مصائب کیا کہوں ہم نے ہر لمحہ گزارا ہے تڑپ کر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے پیمبر الوداع جا رہی ہوں اب مدینے کھائے جاتی ہے حیا جا رہی ہوں اب مدینے کھائے جاتی ہے حیا مجھ سے جب پوچھے گی صغرا بازوؤں پہ کیا ہوا مر گئی میں بھی نہ کیوں زندہ میں گھٹ کر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع سن کے فریاد و فغاں یہ زینب دلگیر کی کہ فریاد و فغاں یہ زینب دلگیر کی کربلا کے بن میں یوں گونجی صدا شبیر کی تیرے مظلومی کے قرباں میری خواہر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع اے میرے ماں جائے اے سبتے پیمبر الوداع
یا حسین یا علی علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان ٹوگیدر میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ تیری شادی کا ہے ارمان بڑا زینب کو تیری شادی کا ہے ارمان بڑا زینب کو ہر گھڑی رہتا ہے بس دھیان تیرا زینب کو تم بچھڑ جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو تم بچھڑ جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو تم بچھڑ جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو غمزدہ زینب ذیشاں کو مناؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ علی اکبر ٹوگیدر ایوری ٹوگیدر میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان تجھ سے چھٹ کر تیری ماں چین نہیں پائے گی، تجھ سے چھٹ کر تیری ماں چین نہیں پائے گی، زندگی بھر تیری صورت کو ترس جائے گی، تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے گی، تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے، تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے گی، کیسے جی پائے گی دکھیاری بتاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، احمد مرسل اعظم کی شباہت تم ہو، احمد مرسل اعظم کی شباہت تم ہو، بعد عباس سے جری میری بساط تم ہو، سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بصارت تم ہو، سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بصارت تم، سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بصارت تم ہو، لین احمد میں اذاں دے کے سناؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میں نہ جاؤ، زندگی بھر تیری فرقت مجھے تڑپائے گی، زندگی بھر تیری فرقت مجھے تڑپائے گی، اب خوشی لوٹ کے اس گھر میں نہیں آئے گی، ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلی جائے گی، ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلی جائے گی، ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلی جائے گی، اپنی صورت مجھے ایک بار دکھاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ، لاسٹ ون، علی اکبر ابھی میدان ہو، جو میرے دل پر گزرتی ہے بتاؤں کیسے، جو میرے دل پر گزرتی ہے بتاؤں کیسے، زخم سینے کا میرے لال چھپاؤں کیسے، میں ضعیفی میں جوان لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میں ضعیفی میں جوان لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میں ضعیفی میں جوان لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میری غربت پہ ذرا رحم تو کھاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، علی اکبر، یا حسین 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 یا علی،
توجہ زارت ہے اربعین،
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام على ولي الله وحبيبه، السلام على خليل الله ونجيبه، السلام على صفي الله وابن صفيه، السلام على الحسين المظلوم الشهيد، السلام على أسير الكربات وقتيل العبرات. اللهم إني أشهد أنه وليك وابن وليك وصفيك وابن صفيك الفائز بكرامتك، أكرمته بالشهادة وحبوته بالسعادة واجتبيته بطيب الولادة وجعلته سيدا من السادة وقائدا من القادة وذائدا من الذادة، وأعطيته مواريث الأنبياء وجعلته حجة على خلقك من الأوصياء، فأعذر في الدعاء ومنح النصر وبذل مهجته فيك ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. وقد توازر عليه من غرته الدنيا وباع حظه بالأرض للأدنى وشرى آخرته بالثمن الأوكس وتغطرس وتردى في هواه وأسخطك وأسخط نبيك وأطاع من عبادك أهل الشقاق والنفاق وحملة الأوزار المستوجبين النار، فجاهدهم فيك صابرا محتسبا حتى سفك في طاعتك دمه واستبيح حريمه. اللهم فلعنهم لعنا وبيلا وعذبهم عذابا أليما. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الأوصياء، أشهد أنك أمين الله وابن أمينه، عشت سعيدا ومضيت حميدا ومت فقيدا مظلوما شهيدا، وأشهد أن الله منجز ما وعدك ومهلك من خذلك ومعذب من قتلك، وأشهد أنك وفيت بعهد الله وجاهدت في سبيله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله من قتلك ولعن الله من ظلمك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. اللهم إني أشهدك إني ولي لمن والاه وعدو لمن عاداه، بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله. أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من المدلهمات من ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المسلمين ومعقل المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع، ونصرتي لكم معدة حتى يأذن الله لكم، فمعكم لا مع عدوكم. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وأجسادكم وشاهدكم وغائبكم وظاهركم وباطنكم، آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. دعاء الفرج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.